Monday, February 17th, 2020, MONERO 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So this morning, the PBOC, or the People's Bank of China, their central bank, they're desperate. They've acted again. They've cut rates again. So today I want to talk about how central bankers are helpless against the economic cycle, the business cycle, or the credit cycle. And they might delay the slowdown, but it's coming. Before I start today, I like to say that I have a 20% off promotion in the MONERO 64 Teespring store. Use the promo code Winter 2020. It's good until March 15th. Here are some of the products that you can get there. So why are central bankers helpless against the business cycle, the credit cycle, or the economic cycle? Well, what's happening in China right now? Of course, we all know what's going on there. A lot of you have asked me, why don't you talk a little bit more about it? Well, because I'm not an expert. I've recommended before, and I'll recommend again that you watch Peak Prosperity YouTube channel. Chris Martinson, he's very good. He knows what's going on. He also has a markets and economics background, and he has a PhD in pathology. So back to the central bankers. Yeah, the only thing central bankers can do is try to push the private banks, the credit system, to keep lending and hope that the consumer is still got an appetite for borrowing and spending, and that's what keeps the economic cycle going. But as we all know, in life, in nature, things go in cycles. People exert energy, they need to rest, and it's the same thing for economies. Don't forget, before we heard the bad news from China a few weeks ago or over a month ago about what's happening there, we'd heard economic news about 2019 GDP growth in China, that it was the slowest since 1990. So China was already slowing down. Europe is slowing down as well. The United States is slowing down. GDP in the US is anemic, around 2%. And why do I say anemic even though it's 2%? Well, because one of the only reasons we see that GDP is that the US is doing a lot of deficit spending. Deficit spending that corresponds to recessions, not the greatest economy ever. 5% of GDP deficit spending. So yes, the Fed, the PBOC, the ECB, the BOE, the Bank of Japan, they might try to avert the slowdown, but in the end of the day, how does it work? Well, you have a recession, the economy slows down, there's a bottom, people pay off their debts, people go bust or declare bankruptcy, companies go out of business, and nobody's borrowing. The stock market bottoms as well, and then it all starts again. But there gets to a point where the consumer, the economy, they've spent and borrowed enough. The debt burden is growing and growing, so they slow down their consumption, and then the whole thing starts again. Historically, under our current fiat money monetary system, fiat currency system, where central bankers and governments interfere in the market, these cycles tend to last around 10 years. So the last recession bottomed around 2009. So we are due for one. And as I said, I think we would have been in one already had not the Federal Reserve, the ECB, and other central banks turned around and gone accommodative again. Don't forget, the Fed was raising rates in 2018. They were shrinking their balance sheet, and they reversed that all last year. They've added to QE as well. even though they don't call it QE. They've had to keep pumping the repo market. So they won't succeed because they can't stop the economic cycle. It's a law of economics. They can delay it. And the same thing goes for China. There's no way that they can stop this. Some of you might think that they're all powerful, that they can interfere, they can print money or create credit out of thin air. But there is a limit. If they could, central bankers and governments, if they could keep things going, we'd never have recessions like we've had in the past. We never have poverty or inflation. So keep that in mind. The other thing that I would say, ever since Greenspan came to power in '87, and it's a paradox and ironic that he's such a proponent of small government and non-interference in the markets. But he's the guy who started all this central banking, government interference in markets. And every boom and bust seems to get bigger ever since then. And I think this is going to be, of course, it's already the biggest boom, especially in the US, and we're going to get the biggest bust, and I think we're close to it. So to finish off, let's quickly look at where the markets are. I am in London. It's just past 8 a.m. London time. For those of you who are new to the channel, I do look at the markets, the futures market, to see where they are before the US opens. So right now, I start with gold. Spot gold is at 1580. It's down 3.5. Range has been 1579.50 to 1584. Fairly steady. Silver has done well today. It's been as high as 1791. Right now, it's back down to 1778, up 5 cents. Low has been 1768. The news from China, their central bank, is helping the stock markets a little bit. The Dow futures up 69.5, 0.25%. S&P likewise up 10 points. NASDAQ 100 futures up 43 points, just under 0.5%. Foreign exchange market. Sterling is down slightly at 130.36. Euro is holding on. It's at 108.41, actually up slightly against the dollar. Dollar is unchanged against the Japanese yen at 109.86. And the US dollar is down 0.15% versus the Chinese yuan at 698. WTI crude is unchanged at 52.27. And to finish off, I'll look at the US bond market. Fairly quiet here in Europe right now. The 10-year yield is unchanged at 159. So there you go. Yeah, they're going to fight quite a bit. And probably the governments are going to get involved as well fiscally, even though it takes longer for that. But yeah, expect more and more central banking interference like the Chinese have done today. It's like the second time now in about 3 weeks, I would say. So what's the way to protect your savings from inflation, from currency debasement? Because that's what inflating the monetary system does to your purchasing power. It debases the currency. Well, it's precious metals, gold and silver. Thousands of years of history of keeping purchasing power. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please think about subscribing. Please share this video far and wide as well. And you can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, BitChute, Steemit, and DTube. I wish you all a great start of the week. Take care. Bye.